family, it's your girl Miss T, and today I will be reviewing the new horror film Brahms, The Boy 2, sequel to the 2016 horror film The Boy. And I dare to pose the question, was making a sequel to an already lackluster horror film worth the effort? In short, no. But let's talk about it. Brahms The Boy 2 is directed by William Brent Bell and is written by Stacey Menear, both of whom worked on the original film The Boy. Now this film stars Katie Holmes, you know, your girl from Dawson's Creek. I haven't seen her in a lot of work lately. I think the last thing she did was Miss Molly and... Anyway, this film also stars Ralph Ineson. He was in The Witch and that movie was creepy AF. Really good film. So we have a pretty decent cast. The acting was really solid in this film. No complaints there. Now, if you aren't too familiar with the original film, The Boy, that film follows an American nanny named Greta, who takes a job as a nanny for an 8-year-old boy in a remote English village. But to her surprise, Greta learns that the child of her new employers is a life-size doll. They care for the doll as if it was human, which helps the couple to cope with the death of their own son 20 years earlier. When Greta violates a list of strict rules, a series of disturbing and inexplicable events bring her worst fears to life, leading her to believe that the doll is alive. But the plot twist was that Brahms is a grown man that was living in the walls of the mansion. Now that is a psychological thriller, a real plot twist that I really enjoyed about the first film. And that was pretty much all I enjoyed about that first film. It was slow. It was really slow. But it intrigued me just enough to want to come and see this sequel. Now the sequel follows a young family that has just suffered a very traumatic event. In the beginning of the film, there's a break-in and it traumatizes the family so bad they want to get away. They decide to move into the Hillshire mansion and their son Jude finds Brahms buried in the woods and terror ensues. Now first I want to talk a little bit about what I really enjoyed about the film and then I'll discuss what I didn't like so much about this film. The first thing that I really enjoyed about this film was the pacing. As I stated earlier, the original film was slow. I mean, I would say boring at times, and we really don't get to enjoy the film until that plot twist occurs within like the last 15-20 minutes of the movie. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't times that I wasn't just a tad bit bored, but it did a good job of picking back up, keeping the story moving, and there were some jump scares. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I'm not above it. I enjoy it. I enjoy horror films, so I really enjoyed that. The pacing really helped this movie flow, and they got straight to the point. I didn't feel like I was in the movie for hours and hours. It was kind of like, we came to do this, we did it, we out. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this film is that the sequel is basically a distinct film from the original. You don't necessarily need to see the original film in order to understand the sequel. In fact, the plot is basically a totally new take on the same character, Brahms. Now, with that being said, if you saw the original film and you enjoyed it, you may not necessarily like this sequel. As I said earlier, I really enjoyed the original film, The Boy, because it was like a new and fresh look on one of these doll horror stories. We're usually used to the doll being possessed or just having some type of evil possession going on. But we didn't get that in the first film. The doll was actually a real person hiding in the walls. That's something that we've never really seen before in a horror film. Now the sequel does take on that same old plot twist. the demonic possessed doll, and it was kind of a disappointment. I was looking for another fresh take on this particular genre of horror, and it didn't deliver that. It was a disappointment. We just didn't need another haunted, demonically possessed doll. It's just been done. It's been overdone, and it's just kind of tired at this point. One of the other things that I didn't necessarily like about this film is that I felt they did a poor job of showing off Brahms' demonic possession. He turns his head. He turns his head. He turns his head. He turns his head. I mean, I swear, he slowly turned his head like 20 times. We get it. It was just overdone to the point it was starting to get a little bit cheesy. Now, lastly, the ending of this film was left open for another sequel, and it's just not needed. We need to just let it die here. And another thing, if Brahms and Jude would have messed around and started tearing up my damn house, I would have had the antidote. Problem solved. So family, that was my review of Brahms, The Boy 2. I was very disappointed, and I think we just could have done without this sequel. If I had to give it a rating out of 5 shots of Hennessy, I would give it 2.5. 2.5 shots of Hennessy. As always, family, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. If you like the content, give your girl a like. And I'll see you next time.